Hi, everyone. My name is Dana Hajhamdan with Hewitt Zollers. I am this year's program co-chair with Elaine Jin. This is my first time introducing a keynote speaker, and it is a little special because I'm a UTA grad and Arlington has a special place in my heart. Today's speaker is Jeff Williams. Jeff has spent his life designing spaces and strategies that bring people together and create a sense of belonging, whether it's a park, a stadium, or an entire city. A civil engineer, a CEO, and a former mayor, Jeff transformed Arlington, Texas from that place between Dallas and Fort Worth to the most dynamic and visited destination of the country. In his career, he successfully fought for the bid to bring the National Medal of Honor Museum to Arlington. He has secured buy-in from multi-billion-dollar businesses and top-level executives to develop the Texas Live District. He's built the largest esport arena in the U.S. and kept the 2023 World Series champions, the Texas Rangers, in their hometown. He has also guided Arlington through some of the most challenging moments in recent history, including racial tensions and being the first major city in the US to emerge from the depths of the pandemic. In comparison to only a few years ago, Arlington is now considered the sports capital of the nation, attracts more than 15 million visitors every year as a major tourism hub, has added thousands of job opportunities and has earned its place as a top contender among innovative and tech-forward U.S. cities. At the heart of it all, Jeff says there's only one principle: unity. Now, in his first book, The Unity Blueprint, Jeff shares real-world stories and actionable strategies that prove unity isn't just an ideal, it is a powerful leadership tool. Whether you're leading in business, government, or a community organization, Jeff's message is clear: unity is always worth the investment. And when it's done right, it can transform not just outcomes, but people. So please help me welcome Jeff to the podium.
Well, how is everybody? Isn't it awesome that civil engineers set the standard for collaboration and teamwork? It starts all the way back in college, doesn't it? They put us together in teams so that we can get things done. And then when we work on our projects, it's essential that we work together and that we respect each other and we work on solving problems, don't we? And you never know where a problem solver is going to come from. When I first was elected mayor, I had a fifth grader to come to me and gave me an idea. This little fifth grader said that, hey, I know that we're producing all of these cars at General Motors. Well, every one of them ought to have a GPS locator on the front of it to where it could find the potholes and move the car away from the potholes. And then it should send where the potholes are directly to the mayor's office so he can get them fixed. Pretty good idea, wasn't it? And I laughed, but then I thought we could really make that happen because we all have that GPS locator with us. And so I had our staff develop an app to where literally when they see a pothole, then they can actually punch the app because they're at the pothole and not send it to the mayor's office, but to send it directly to the street department. And we formulated 2 pothole repair crews that go out every day. So potholes get repaired within 3 days when they're reported. And y'all all know what that means. One is citizens don't get mad because they look at the same pothole every day, but also we extend the life of our streets. And then the young fifth grader said, Mayor, you're missing the point. Extends the life of our cars. Oh, all right. But y'all, that's the way it is. We know that we need each other to be able to move forward. And I have learned in my career that unity is one of the most important things because we're in a world now of dissension and division. And so much time is wasted in conflict resolution. And isn't it terrible when you have our engineer sitting next door that you're upset with, and it's hard to get past that. and you're not being productive. Instead, it's occupying your mind versus when you're friends with that engineer next door, or at least respecting and working together. What are you doing? You're thinking about how to design that project. How can we work together to solve that problem? How can we sell that project to the public? How can we sell that project to the developer? All of those things are so much more productive. And then guess what? You're ready to come to work the next morning, aren't you, when you've worked together in unity? And then I'll say this too. Forbes came to town and asked me to write this book because they found that one of the things that Americans want more than anything is unity. But they said they're not doing anything about it to make unity happen. Well, I think we as civil engineers practice it every day in collaboration and teamwork. So I'm going to move into talking about the Grand Prix. And I'm going to talk about Grand Prix Arlington and then move into the National Medal of Honor Museum. And I tell you, the Medal of Honor Museum is one of the top examples of unity and success and coming together. So many complicated engineering problems to solve. And then even before, when I was mayor, actually trying to win a 20-city competition to bring the National Medal of Honor Museum to our community. But I want to start out here by showing you a picture. And what does that have to do with the Grand Prix? Well, this happened to be October 23rd, 2011. We found out that the World Series was going to be playing here a week before this happened. And then you see all these full parking lots, both at Cowboy Stadium and over at Choctaw Stadium, the old ballpark in Arlington. Something that was never supposed to happen did 2 years after we opened Cowboy Stadium. We designed the roads throughout the entertainment district, and then we also were the civil engineer for Globe Life Park and for the Cowboy Stadium. Well, you always want your design parameters, don't you? Don't you? That's one of the big things, isn't it, Mark, to be able to get your design parameters. Well, Major League Baseball and the NFL got together. And they said, we will never have a game does not have 3 hours between a Major League Baseball game and a National Football League team. Well, here, there was overlap when the World Series came in. And then y'all know we only had a week to be doing it. And it was one of the worst days in my life when I heard that, because I thought we're going to have gridlock. You know, everybody had been very pleased with everything that had happened out here. And then suddenly they violated our design parameters. Well, we had to come together with both the city's traffic engineer, ourselves as the design engineers for the roads themselves. We had TxDOT, the city staff there from Arlington. We scrambled and we were using every resource we could. We tried to direct the traffic to different places to come in. We rented portable signs there throughout to be able to make it go. The signals, everything that we could do, we did. But I still thought, man, we are going to hear it today that they're not going to be able to get in and out. Well, it was never more satisfying than when I was able to see that we'd gotten everybody in. It had not been disaster. And yes, we had built in some factor, but I still don't know how it worked, but we were able to get everybody in. I was actually able to sit down and watch the World Series and actually feel comfortable, because even though they were all coming at the same time, they would be leaving at different times. It was the arrival that was really the problem. And then after I sat through that game, the Rangers beat the Cardinals that day. We didn't win the World Series, but they won that. And then I walked down the street on Randall Mill Road and went to the rest of the Cowboys game there with that. And it was one of those light bulb moments where, wow, how privileged we are to get to use the things that we design as civil engineers and experience that. And then for us to be able to work through and solve problems that we shouldn't have ever had to solve there in it. Well, now we got another design parameter violation. When we designed Randall Mill Road and Ballpark Way and Cowboys Way, The maximum design speed was supposed to be 45 miles an hour. They're going to be going 180 miles an hour on our roads. And I will say that they have incredible crash barriers that are going in that are not just situated for our 70 or 80 miles an hour. They are actually counting on the 180 miles an hour they're on it. But I never thought I would see the day. And of course, I'll never forget when they first advertised this too. They said, we are going to have an incredible turn at Randall Mill and Ballpark Way. And they actually called it the crash turn. And I'm sitting there, yeah, I believe it would be a crash turn too. It was not designed for that. It is a 90-degree turn as it stands now. But basically, they will round that off, and we had to reduce the median and so forth to be able to make that happen. Here's the layout. And you can see AT&T Stadium there on the left, Globe Life Field there on the right. Basically, the main Randall Mill is going to be part of it. Ballpark Way there on the east, on the right side, there you have it. And then that turn that I'm talking about is turn 10. There are 14 turns here on this. And of course, the turns make it exciting. And then didn't the simulation, those cars didn't have any trouble with those turns, did they? Well, they will on race day. And they say it makes pretty. Of course, there also will be more cars on the track than what we saw there in that simulation. But literally, they will be weaving around the entertainment district there and going through all of this. And then grandstands and suites are constructed here on it and constructed along the route. Let's go to the next picture because it's an aerial and give you an even better feel because you can see from the aerial where everything is at. Now we're going, through Lowe's Hotels, Texas Live, Choctaw Stadium, Globe Life Field. The 180-mile-an-hour straightaway is when they are turning east and going down Randall Mill, and then they are going to be braking and turning to make that turn 10. So here, right before they're going into the toughest turn they've got, that's when they're going to be going the fastest. Now, what are some of the things that we had to do to get ready for this? We had to lower medians there because in some places they're going to be cutting across where the medians are now raised. And so we've got at-grade medians where we lowered the curbs, made them flat, paved them. And then here's one for you. These cars are so close to the roadway, they create a vacuum. They will pull off the manhole lids. So you'll know what we did there. We bolted the manhole lids down. But then all through this metroplex, or all through this entertainment district, we had pavers that were in all the intersections, brick pavers. Well, they'll just suck those right up too. So they were all taken out, and we replaced them with stamped concrete there for that. And then also, let's go on to the next one, and I'll show you something that's pretty cool. This is an example of the grandstands and suites that they're constructing out there, and they'll be all over the track. They will have general admission seating there, all different price points that you have. But as an example, this is pit row. And in pit row, we had to pull out the asphalt and put in concrete on this particular one because it's in the parking lot of Cowboy Stadium where pit row will be. And of course, with all the oil and gas and everything else, that it'd tear that asphalt up with what's going. But also you can see the different walls and crash barriers and so forth here. This is a great drawing to show it. They are going to be all along the route itself to try to keep the spectators safe. And then even being raised up is another safety deal to raise you up above it there to bit. But so the thing about it is you can never trust design parameters, can you? Who would have thought that we now would be having 180 miles an hour going on 45 mile an hour roads, but an exciting time. And I hope you guys can come out. I have yet to be to a Grand Prix, but so many of my friends have, and they say it's one of the most exciting things there. But I can't wait to take pictures of these cars going on the roads that I designed some 15, 20 years ago. So it's going to be pretty fun. Okay. Let's move on to the next one here, Basile. There we go. you never know what project may be next, do you? I mean, this came out of nowhere. Uh, when I got the call there as mayor about the Medal of Honor Museum, they said, hey, would you be willing to meet with the selection committee for the Medal of Honor Museum? And they're wanting to stay over and meet with you to talk about Arlington. And this was like 8 o'clock on a Thursday night. I said, well, sure, I will, but aren't they going to DC? And anyway, they said, well, no, they're not, because it would take 20 years to get it built in Washington, DC. And they think they can get it built much quicker in a lot of the other cities. And they said they're on a 20-city competition here to be able to select the place for where that museum goes. Anyway, I told them I was too busy and couldn't meet with them. And I didn't do that. I about jumped out. I said, absolutely, I will meet with you. And I said, and by the way, this was a pretty neat deal. One of the Medal of Honor recipients heard about it, and he called the head of Air Power Foundation, was a friend of mine that actually grew up in Arlington. And he told him, hey, you ought to look at Arlington, and they agreed to do that. But I did ask him if you can get them here as late as you can, and they came in the afternoon. So literally, and y'all will appreciate this, we stayed up all night. I called the city manager. I called our Chamber of Commerce president. We stayed up all night getting ready for those presentations. And we hope we don't ever have to do that, but how many times as an engineer it happens, and especially on these premier projects that you've got to put everything into it. So we got the door open, and people from all over the Metroplex got involved. We needed to include a lot of people. A quote that we often use, and I'm sure many of you have used that quote of Margaret Mead, whenever a few concerned citizens get together, great things can happen. Well, I like to change that quote a little bit. When several thousand people get together, it's amazing how many big things can happen. And that's what we needed here, because we were going against the major cities around the country. Well, Dallas, Fort Worth, the surrounding cities came in and helped us, but then it went all over the state. And yes, we brought in President Bush, we had the governor, all of us trying to make this happen. But then one of the great things that happened is that I was leaving office from being the mayor, and my firm got to do the civil engineering, because I couldn't do it, if we were there. So it was really exciting that we got to do the civil engineering. But here's something that's pretty fascinating, is that this was 2019, and we went through a 6-month process, the city did, to make that happen. And by the way, is there anybody from City of Arlington here? I didn't see anybody, but I just got to thank them. The staff just dug in big time to help make that happen. But 6-month process, got awarded in Arlington. We included engineers, architects, contractors, because we had to show them that we could get this thing done quick. And we did that. But I want to share with you something that is off the charts here about this, is that we are working with Medal of Honor recipients. And these people are some of the greatest there are. And when you think about what we were doing, is that this isn't just any museum. It's a national museum that is housing the stories of 3,500 of our nation's heroes, the top heroes in America that are here. And I think that's so important for us as civil engineers, is to remember what we're designing. So many times other people minimize what we're doing, especially architects. But however, guys, what we're doing is important. We are making a big difference. And I think that as we get in and we're starting to design that water and sewer line, or as we're designing the road and so forth, all of those things are ingredients to making these great places happen. Couldn't make it without civil engineers. So it's really, really important. But let's move on here, and I'll show you. This is what we started with. You ever had an architect to tell you to make it happen? We certainly have, haven't we? Well, this was a brilliant design, and you may not realize it here now, but you did see the finished product. But this was his first drawing, in which he said, I want to have an exhibit hall that is being supported by 5 structural columns. And the symbolism is that big rectangular metal block that he has up there on the top, he said, symbolizes the burden of freedom. And then the columns are all the things that the 5 branches of the military, symbolizing that each soldier is supporting our freedom and supporting each other. Pretty cool symbolism, but it took a lot of engineering to get it from right there to where it is now. So I do want to be sure and recognize the design team, and you can see the people. Dennis Irvine and Jack Hill are both Texans. There, Vanoli is a world-class architect out of New York that's done museums all over the world. Lindbeck was phenomenal. Here they are right here in the Metroplex, and I'm about to show you some of the difficulties of constructing this. And then Schlonk Bergerman, the structural engineer, was just phenomenal. Lots of challenges there for them. And then we were the civil engineer. Landtech here locally was a geotech, phenomenal geotech firm. And isn't it awesome that we can actually say that we have a lot of good structural, civil engineers and geotech engineers here in the Metroplex. And we were touting that big time when they were coming in. You might be wondering, where is it located at? And it is located right on the lake itself. You see the yellow print right there. It was a old Little League ballpark that was actually done in the original one. So yes, we did have to tear it down. Parks Department's building other places to replace that. And then here's what it looks like today. And the location was very important because the TV views of Cowboy Stadium, they look right down the lake. They're actually come back over here into the left side of the picture, looking down the lake at Cowboy Stadium. Well, now the Medal of Honor is in most of the pictures when each football game comes up. And so it's, but the other part is they wanted to be away from the sports field, still within walkable distance. But it was one of the worst places hydraulically we could put it, but that happens, doesn't it? Okay. And then let's go to the next one. Landtech got out and did the borings and so forth. And what they found is that we might be able to get by without doing standard drill piers, and we could use auger cast in place piles. But however, there's no taking chances, is there? Especially with a facility here that's going to be lasting. So we ended up putting in test piles and left them there, and then also did load testing, and everything worked out well. And the reason we wanted to do it was because it saved a ton of money, but more importantly, time. But we needed to make sure that they were going to work. So we involved all of the engineers and contractor in that decision. And so that was a major coup for us, because we actually cut time out of the schedule and money out of the budget. And then we took out about an acre of existing parking lot. And we already knew we needed to do that to make the hydraulics work, and of course to have a net zero impact on our pervious surface. Okay. Next one. Go back one. There we go. These are those 5 mega columns, y'all. They are actually supporting 2,000 pounds. I'm sorry. 2,000 tons. Y'all, Cowboy Stadium video board is 600 tons. Does that give you an idea of how much that was supporting? So 2,000 tons for each one of those 5. So that means that's a loading of 100,000 tons there from that elevated floor that's about to go in. But we're really proud of the idea that we had, because you know how it is when you're trying to run the utilities and wiring and all that. You're always having trouble worrying about what the next expansion might be and how it might affect your existing utilities, but also even how it's going to look. We ended up using the center of those columns as the utility spine. All of the audio, video, their electric, water, sanitary sewer, And was it hard? Yes. Every one of them is a different size, and we needed to put the right sleeves in so that we could pull it out if something happened there in it. So even which ones went together was a monumental thing, and it's worked out amazingly well. And then we'll go to the next one. All right, this is a belt truss system there, and you can see it's the 40,000 square foot exhibit hall that's being built. The architect wanted it to be elevated so that people, when they came up to it, would know they were going to someplace special. But here you can see the steel beams that are coming actually tie in to 10 cantilevered beams that for the flooring to actually transfer the real stress out to the perimeter of that truss. Now, all of this had to be done in the right order, because you can imagine the deflection as you're adding the weight and making sure that you do not have a problem there, but also temperature made a huge difference. And they were doing a lot of this during the summer. This day on the topping out, they had planned so well, and they were looking forward to putting this last piece of steel in. But guess what happened? Texas hit. The temperature ended up exceeding what they thought it would be, and they were just barely to where they could not make that final connection there on it. So it's topping out. They were not able to do it, but guess when they did it? When things cooled down a little bit later that day. And so anyway, it was amazing to see that happen and how it came about. Okay. And then look at the star here at the top of that. You know, you will never see that because it's covered up with cladding and so forth now. But inside that star is an oculus, because while we were under construction, guess what happened? They formed a sixth branch of the military. Space Force was formed. And so that's why we have the beam of light coming out in the middle there. And of course, it ended up a neat design element, but that is the Space Force that's doing that. And then we'll move on here to the next. You can see down here on the bottom, those are theaters. They are event centers. We have a leadership institute there on the bottom. But then how do we get people up to that elevated exhibit hall? The architect wanted suspended stairways, y'all, suspended stairways. And we found out that there's only one place that a stairwell this big, of course it was steel, could be constructed, and that was in Amsterdam at a ship foundry. And then in addition to that, it had to be shipped over, and then it is suspended by tension rods, steel tension rods that are coming from the ceiling, because they did not want to have the support beams coming down below the stairwell itself. An amazing feat too, again, that it was put in. But y'all are thinking too, not everybody can walk up that 50 feet up those stairs into that. So we needed an elevator. But he didn't want to just have any elevator. He wanted a glass elevator that would be transparent. And you can see it under construction now. And then we'll go to the next slide here, and you'll see what the finished product looked like. You see it in the background there. It is quite a ride, because you're actually able to see out on the entertainment district, but you also are able to look in the rotunda of the museum, and it's very dramatic. And you're right there by the flag, which the flag is pretty amazing that is on it. Now, needless to say, we need to take care of civil engineering on this project too. This isn't all just about structural, is it? Okay, here we go. Here's what we needed to do. We were right by the existing bridge, and I mentioned the hydraulics were very ticklish, floodway going through. We actually had to fashion the grading to match it. We had multiple iterations going back and forth because the grading was very ticklish in how that happened. But we were able to do the modeling to actually also allow for room for parade grounds here on the facility itself and work it out. And then we were also they're able to work on the stormwater management on the site itself. And let's go to the next. And you can actually see our green roof that we put on here. You can see the retaining wall. Underneath that is our restaurant and our souvenir shop. And of course, the green roof has just worked out beautifully. And again, there we had systems that reduced the runoff rates. We were able to improve water quality. We also took our irrigation from the lake itself. So we were able to do that. So really decreasing their environmental impacts. And then from a sustainability and resilience perspective, the project emphasized durability and long-term performance there through it. Might mention this cladding. We looked at so many different claddings. That is an aluminum composite that was put on there that can stand the weather. But they love the fact that depending on how the light hits it, it made all the difference in the world. And then I also want you to notice the trails there through this is that we were actually able to connect into the Johnson Creek Greenway, and the trails run 11 miles that come through here and actually connect into the Trinity Trails. So you can actually go on into Grand Prairie and Irving, and hopefully Dallas will get theirs done before long, and we'll get to downtown Dallas. And I think we are within a year of the trails being connected to Fort Worth. We are very close, so that you'd be able to go from here all the way into downtown Fort Worth with the trail system itself. Okay. In conclusion on this, we were able to get it done on time there in March of this year, or I shouldn't say this year now, it's 2026. March of 25, we completed our deadline because that was National Medal of Honor Day. And President Bush and a lot of the Medal of Honor recipients were there. But it was a real testimony to working together and in collaboration that we were able to do it, because a lot of this was done right during the supply chain issues and also with many challenging. In fact, most of the people working on this say this is the most complicated project that they have ever done. And it is real testimony to civil engineering and structural engineering there to make it happen. And then here's a fun slide here we had a drone show at the grand opening. 14,000 drones, 9,000 up all the time. And the reason they had the extra drones, the wind was blowing at 20 miles an hour, and the batteries might not make it if they did not shift the drones to where they didn't start dropping out of the air. But it was amazing what happened there in that. So today, go to the next one. The National Medal of Honor Museum is there. It is open for business, and they are sharing the 3,500 stories of these inspiring heroes. And they are also trying to inspire Americans to adopt character values of integrity, sacrifice, courage, commitment, citizenship, and patriotism. And then, isn't it awesome that we see that they were just named the best new museum in America? And of course, the civil engineering was the critical part of it, there's no doubt. But here's what I want to leave you with. Civil engineers build communities. And we create special places, don't we? And we need to always remember that. And it's so rewarding to be able to go and see your projects and see our citizens use them. Take your family and friends there to do it. But how did we do it? Through teamwork and innovation. And isn't it an incredible time to be an engineer when we have so many different innovations? Technology is coming along great, but we have a challenge to be able to use that technology to our advantage and do different things. So, civil engineers build communities and create special places through teamwork and innovation. Appreciate each and every one of you, and isn't it fun to be a civil engineer?